Okay, that's a 3/5. We said, and we're pulling that information. You want to get the remaining two. You want to talk about affluence. Okay, please give her microphone. Give Sister Mary microphone.
I think you were talking about affluence when you were talking about the fact that you are rich to the point where no matter the language the currency is speaking, you are rich. Exactly. Like if you have it in naira, you have it in pounds, you have it in dollars. So you are no longer. It's no longer a matter of what currency you are talking about. Yeah, there's a richness
Please
that you
add
have.
one more clap for that one. Add one. We are getting there, right? We are getting there. So riches has to do with instance when we look at you, and you have enough to meet all your needs. You may even have to spare. Are we together? Riches is about having enough to meet your needs, or more than enough to meet your needs. That's what riches is all about. Wealth is having valuable assets. The key difference is you may be rich and all you have is money. And remember we said that the value of money is an ascribed value. You understand? It's not real value. Because unless you put it to work, it doesn't reproduce. But you can have valuable assets that produce money. Are we together? Once you add assets to it, then we say it's wealthy. When you have a constant provision. So wealth is something that Sister Kenny got very well. God bless you. Affluence is now when wealth increases, which means the valuable assets, they keep increasing. Right? They keep what? Increasing. And because they keep increasing, what happens? You are growing richer and richer, more affluent. And we take example from the Bible. Can remember whose example we use from the Bible? Isaac. We talked about when he was in Gerar and he sowed in that land. And what happened? He started to prosper. That's riches. He continued to prosper until he was very, very prosperous, to the extent that the king of that country now said, come and leave our country. You are too strong for us. Amen. And I try to dwell on certain things just to give some of us business ideas. What did Isaac did? He sowed in the land, Abby. So probably it was farming, right? When you hear sow, you think of what? Crop farming, right? Planting cassava, àgbàdo. Let's mention the ones that even make more money. When you plant 3 years palm tree, that third year you become a millionaire. When you plant on like 16 acre, if you really know what you're doing with it, planting gum, planting rubber trees. But when the Bible was going to mention the riches of Isaac, they didn't mention any tree or any cassava. They mentioned what? Flocks, right? And ads. We can go back to that place. It's Genesis 26:12. They said they had possession of flocks. Possession of what? Flocks. And I said, when you think about flocks, what are you thinking about? You're thinking about the wool from the sheep that is useful in the clothing industry, right? So you can say it's in the textile industry or fashion business, right? You can also think about, when you hear flocks, if you're talking of goats, sheep, and everything, you can think of food. You can think of milk. Yes. You can also think of what? The meat. You can think of suya. You can think of nomo. And I said if you add ads of camel, you can think of pharmaceutical, because the milk for camel, from a very long time, the milk from camel had been medicinal. So, no more is dry meat, very sweet. See Sister Esther for more explanation. Am I correct? And what is that pepper that's very sweet that you use with it? Yaji. Yaji, Abi? Yes. So think of, it was in the food business. Either a supplier of meat, right? Because when we just say ads, flocks and everything, but when you see ads also, Those days they talk about cows, they talk about oxen, they talk about camels, right? They talk about horses and horses when they are saying ads. When you think about camel, asses, and horses, if you go back to Job chapter 1, you'll see that it's the same line of business for Job. When you talk about those things, you're talking about transportation. That means he can supply caravan to carry goods from one place to the other. So you're talking of what? Transportation. Yes. And then when you talk of oxen in those days, people need oxen to plow their field. And some don't have. They will rent from those who have. So you're talking of somebody that has maybe like forklift, caterpillars, heavy lifting equipment, machines to rent out. You see, sometimes things in the Bible, they'll just be 2 sentences like this. But if you pause, eyes of understanding will open. Just pause and think about it. Are we together? Eyes of understanding. So that was the potential. So he had assets. All those things were assets. And you know, flocks and herds, they reproduce. So that means the females will produce more. Right? So he's having succession planning, he's having restocking of those things. So we need to think big like that. And that was why he started to prosper, and he continued to prosper until he was very prosperous. He started to be rich. He continued to be rich and continued to gain assets. Probably he actually started from the farming, but he started acquiring the oxen, the cows, the sheep. You understand? Because what the Bible said was, he sowed in the land. But by the time they were going to say for a yard, they started mentioning flocks, oxen, and herds. And when you use the word flocks and herds, you are mentioning a lot of things. Now, if you can go out of this slide a little bit, and let's look at this in, it's been my 2IC. Let's look at Job chapter 1. Let's look at Job chapter 1. This is the profile of Job before temptation. They said there was a man in the land of Uz whose name was Job. And that man was perfect and upright, one that feared God and eschewed evil. So Job had the foundation. The foundation, like a new creation man. He feared God. He knew God. Right? So they mentioned that foundation. Can we see? And then they said there was born unto him 7 sons and 3 daughters. So he was a family man. His wealth did not destroy his family. Right? You see, the Bible did not put what he has in terms of material first. They put the fact that he knew God first, followed by family. And this is actually the order of things in our life. If you have wealth and that wealth supersedes God or family, then it's not God's kind of wealth. It is not. Look at the order of the arrangement here. They mentioned where he was living, the fact that he was upright, he knew God. He was a just man. He was a man of faith. The just shall live by faith. We can deduce that. And they mentioned his family next. Then I said his substance was also 7,000 sheep. 7,000 what? Sheep. So that's a clothing business. You can share their wool and sell to those who spawn cotton. Who spin material, woolen clothes. And you know that even up to now, wool suits is very expensive. Very, very expensive. It's not like normal cotton suit. Then he had 3,000 camels. You think of transportation, and you think of probiotics in those days because of the medicinal value of the camel's milk. Do we understand? That's what you think about when you hear camel. You think about burden lifters. You think of heavy moving equipment that can move heavy things. And you think of rugged vehicles, because the camel in the desert, they don't even need as much water. So 3,000 camels, 500 yoke of oxen. You know the meaning of that? They didn't say 500 oxen. 500 yoke of oxen meant that the plowing equipment that they put on the oxen It's part of it. They've counted not just the oxen, but what the oxen is pulling. You understand? So this is talking of mechanized farming. You understand? And if you have about 500 yoke of oxen in those days, you will be able to rent out. It's not only your field that will use that. One, if you know what one yoke, that will be 2 oxen, can plow, you will know that 500 yoke of oxen is not a joke. Are we together? Then they said 500 she asses. When you are talking of asses, you are talking of donkey, load carrying animals. So it was in the transportation business, for real. And probably was a breeder too. It was what? A breeder. You know the people they call breeder? People that would cultivate good animals, good horses, good dogs, good cows that you can buy from their stock to start your own. You understand? So, and they said, and a very great household, human beings. So that this man was the greatest of all men of the East. Did they mention money anywhere? They did not mention money. But everything they mention can produce money. Because all of them can create, you can create value and add value to things of life. In what they mentioned, they've mentioned, the only thing they didn't talk about here, minus the household now, is shelter. We don't know whether he has hotels or accommodations for rent. But the basic needs of man, they will say food, shelter, and clothing. But you know that's not true. Man must move. It's a need. Transportation is a need. Do we agree? So that's one part. That's just to open our hearts to potential business we can be thinking of in the Bible that always succeed. That the Bible, by biblical standard, these are the things they use to measure standards of wealth. Do we understand? When you are thinking business, if you don't know what to think about these things that we have talked about. Think about the food industry. Think about movement. Think about something mechanized. Think about something you can do in the medical line. So that was the profile of Job. You know that because Job had number 1, when they took number 2 and number 3, verse 2 is family, verse 3 is possession. When the devil instigated God and God permitted him and he took 2 and 3, because Job held to number 1. If you go back to Job 42, he had everything back. 7 times more. 7 times what? More. He had 3 daughters here. And when you go back to the last verse of Job, he had 3 daughters again. Even though in verse 2, all his sons and daughters were killed. All his wealth destroyed. It's in that book of Job that they said there is hope for a tree cut down. That at the scent of water, it shall surely sprout up again. It will surely what? Sprout up again. So that's Job 14:7. That's what? Job 14:7. There is hope for a tree if it be cut down. The scent of water, it will surely sprout up again. So the foundation we laid last week is very important. Identity. Learning to hold on to God. Shall we understand? If we go to Job 42, from verse 10, he said, and the Lord turned the captivity of Job when he prayed for his friends. And also the Lord gave Job twice as much as he had before. Twice as much as what he had before. When he prayed for his friend. You know, through his trials, some people were making him angry. Do you think he can really pray for them without forgiving them? The prayer that will come from his heart. So offense is one of those things that even when God was ready to answer Job, God had to first of all instruct him to deal with the offense in his heart. To do what? Deal with the offense in his heart. I don't know. Sometimes we have offense in our heart. Let's deal with it. Maybe long-standing deal that did not fall through, and you felt you were taken for a ride. You have to forgive those people first. Pray for your enemies and those who despitefully use you. You understand? It's one of the ways of repositioning for a recovery of the things that are lost. Are we together? So, after that, Bible said in verse 12 of Job 42, verse 11, that then came there unto him all his brethren and all his sisters, on all they that had been his acquaintance before. That have been what? His acquaintance before. And they did eat bread with him in his house, and they bemoaned him and comforted him over all the evil that the Lord had brought upon him. Every man also gave him a piece of money, every one an earring of gold. If we were listening today where Reverend was talking, Reverend said real success has to do with real. Right? R for what? Relationship. E for what? Equipping. A for what? Attitude. L for what? Leadership. Relationship. And in this house we have learned that resources comes from relationship. Can we see what God did? God restored his relationships. All his brethren came back, right? And when they came back, they fellowship with him. When they say they did eat bread, they fellowship with him. They mourn with him. Then they gave him a piece of money, everyone an earring of gold. Did they give him sheep or cattle or anything? No. But let's go to verse 12. He said, so the Lord blessed the latter end of Job more than his beginning. For he had 14,000 sheep. 14,000 what? Sheep. That was twice what they mentioned at the beginning. What he knew to do, when he had the funds to do it, he did it in a bigger way. Do we understand? He had 6,000 camels. You know, he had 500 yoke of oxen before. Now, he had 1,000 yoke of oxen and 1,000 she-asses. And he had 7 sons and 3 daughters again. Is somebody ready to try again? You've done it before. You thought it failed, or it really did fail. It folded up. But are we ready to try again? I remember in 2014 when Lagos Internal Revenue came to shut down our office in Allen. That office was very small. That office will not be longer than from here to the end of that keyboard. And it cannot be wider than, maybe a little bit wider than this space. Just open the door. We just managed to squeeze ourselves. It was a training center. And Lagos, we were squatting. So we were like subletting from another man. And he was not doing well with his taxes. So they locked all of us out. Do you understand? And that was the year Reverend said it was the year of restoration. 2014. We just managed to move some things out. In fact, I think the things we were able to move out was the same that we just gave to the lawyer. That thank you. That air conditioner, window AC, just gave it to the lawyer as his payment, and we took our TV that we're using for projection. That was a stage. That was what? A stage. And it was like, oh, you are starting from all over again. You understand? But working with godly principle, we have built our own office again. Do you understand? God is in business of doing that for every of his child. It's not a special thing. It's not a big deal for God. There is hope for a tree, though it's cut down at the scent of water, it will surely sprout again. the righteous man falls 7 times, but he rises up again. So that's one part. I hope you are writing things down. Now, we will do another exercise now. We will start from here. So every business idea can pass through these 4 stages of this 4 level of value creation. And if you are wondering whether you have a scripture for this 4 level of value creation, I think we do. Let's open our Bible to the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 9 verse 10. If you are reading the KJV version of Ecclesiastes chapter 9 verse 10, it says, whatsoever your hand findeth to do, do it with all thy might, for there is no work. There is no what? Work, nor device, right? Nor what? Knowledge, nor what? Wisdom. Can you see the 4 levels? In the grave. Can you see the 4 levels? When you come up with a novel idea, when you discover something new, you are seen as wise, as smart. Work, employing your muscles over time. Now, the only thing this slide has done for us is that in talking about device, if you don't have human beings, if you have machine, you understand, you will operate the machine. You'll still be unified. You can put together an assembly plant. Are we together? That's still making you a unifier. And I said you can leverage some technology at every point. But there is a level at which you leverage technology that you are a unifier. Because that plant can be as big as this all, and you will need a few hands to support you. And then we have what? Knowledge. So work, device, knowledge, and wisdom. So every business can operate at these 4 levels. Every idea, every work. So let's do something. What should I call you? I'm going to call 2 people that I think are into the same business. I'm going to set a panel. Sister Lola, please come out. Okay, Caro, please come out. Praise God. Please come out. Please come out. Don't worry. Okay. Okay, give them 2 mics where they are. They don't want to come out. Give them 2 mics where they are. We are still going to do this with them. Give them 2 mics. Active mics. Let's do this. So, I believe both of you are somehow into fashion, right? Or tailoring. Or fashion designing. Fashion designing, right? Okay. So, and now this is what the rest of us will do. Get your white paper. Be thinking about what you are doing. But they will be answering the question so that you know how to put your own down. So, how do you apply muscle over time? Or what will you call muscle over time when it comes to fashion? What comes to your mind when they are talking about muscle over time? When we've explained muscle over time. You are working for yourself, or you are employed somewhere, and you are doing the work yourself. You are moving this, moving that. What are the dimensions of muscle over time for you? It's too simple, Abi. What are the things that when you finish, you are tired, and it takes time? Okay, let Carol go first. Yes.
You say what takes time?
To do and takes your energy to do.
For energy, it's peddling the machine, like doing the action, sewing.
Sewing, okay.
Then time consuming is trying to cut.
Trying to cut.
Yeah. Because most times, so trying to cut the dress, the fabric. Like
okay.
you most times you get pictures from your customers, and even if even if it's something you've never done before, you still take it, and then you have to think and do all the maths, because once you've cut it, that's the end.
Point of no return.
Exactly. Yeah, so that's it. or when you're coming up with a fresh design.
Okay. Thank you very much. God bless you, sister. Sister Ola, just help us. If we've talked about these 4 levels, most overtime is when you are doing it yourself and it takes you time. How long will it take you to completely sew one clothes? Only you, one machine. Okay, let's take an average style. Let's take Iro and Buba. Let's take a school uniform. A child school uniform. Complete the one they do these days. Suits, shirts, inner. Okay, up and down or gown.
Maybe 2 hours.
Oh,
No,
wait.
with cutting, well, it depends.
Okay.
It really, really depends. If you say maybe up and down, some may be pleated, and you have to do some.
It's part of the muscle over time. Okay, let's go on.
Okay, so 2 to 3 hours. A little kid. That is if there is.
No distraction. If mice is not at home, Eden is not at home, and
It's
they
not
are not
even
fighting.
about. It's not just about the kids. Like we have different environments.
Okay.
For someone that works from the home, maybe I to just cut off that home front from the. I actually juggle everything together, and I've had to speak to somebody that was in that situation, and she said that's why she had to move. She could not. She had to move out of the house to take the. So a lot of sometimes, most of the time, I'm not able to really calculate how long. You understand? Because in between, and all that. But really, like she said, it's similar to almost everybody in that line of business. That the muzzle over time is a time of cutting, because there are a lot of processes. You want your work to come out very beautiful. There is the ironing before sewing. For some people, they don't care. They just cut, sew, bra, brew, bra, and then you have to start doing all manner of amendments. I don't like that. I don't like that. So I spend time with my measurements, all those calculations and all that. But along the line, one of the things I began to do to be able to reduce time is to come up with patterns. Yeah, that one has always been in the fashion industry, but it's not common those days when we were learning. But along the line, I do a lot of learning online and all that, and I discovered that that's like the best. If you just see somebody's measurement that looks like a pattern you already had, it just helps you. You place it on the fabric, you cut, and you manage time.
So you use template.
Yeah, we call it pattern. I know it's template.
Yes,
Yeah.
pattern. So you're already coming to this place now.
Oh,
Instead
sorry.
of doing the work, she's already coming here. So instead of having to do all the work of measurement, maybe for a standard 3-year-old all the time, she has pattern of that style for 3-year-old. And with that pattern, another person can cut maybe 5 per day, 10 per day. But if you are to always measure from the beginning, maybe you won't cut more than one in a day. So most over time is you reinventing the wheel, doing everything by yourself from the beginning. Do we understand it better? Now, in your own business, write down now. Identify the things that require muscle over time and you cannot change. You always have to do it yourself, do it manually. Write it down. You understand? Are we together? In your own business. No, just write it down. I'm trying to move us somewhere practically, and I want us to take it. For example, at the beginning of when business started for me, when you collect that drawing, and you go and do site visits, you work the whole site. You can spend 4 hours working. You carry wallpaper. You be sketching my own. You understand? You'll be taking measurements. You enter ceiling, you trace pipe and cable. You understand? When you come out, you have dust on your head and everything. And then when you now get home, you now open AutoCAD. You sit down. You can be there for 6 hours producing those drawings, those sketches, producing them into drawing that everybody can now understand universally, 2D, 3D, and everything. So everybody's work has a muscle over time aspect in order to create value. Did I even start from the right place? Okay, I hope we have time. We'll get to that other place. So that's muscle over time. What you are doing now, that's muscle over time. Because there is no work or what? Device. So let's move to the device. So unification. What are the tools, templates that if you have, you'll be able to create more value, do more? Are we together? What are what? The tools, the device, the maybe you need more manpower. If you have 2 people helping you, you work faster. If you have maybe a phone, you work faster. Maybe you need internet, you work faster. Maybe because instead of sharing questionnaire, you can go online and download things. Maybe if you have an extra boss, you will sell more. I'm looking at somebody's face. Somebody that wants to buy boss. You sell more. You reach out to more people. What are the tools that will help you to create more value or multiply your value? Let's write them down. Think deeply about the gift, the skill that God has given you. There will be some things that you can use to automate your work. You understand? Device. Think about it. Or this is how you will write it down. That's the level. So you are leveraging muscles and skills over time, and you're also leveraging machineries, equipments over time. Children, don't worry, just be reading your book. But let this thing be in your subconscious mind, so that when you are finished and you are ready, are we together? Yeah. It comes back to you. So what are the tools that you need? These are things you raise to God in faith. The money to buy those things will come in Jesus' name. Amen. That's the part of empowerment. We saw the empowerment of Job. People came, right? Who brought them? God. They empathized with him. They gave him money and gold. Then the next verse, we had that Job, like I said, if you must borrow to increase value. Last week, like we have seen in the Bible. So when they gave him money, he didn't use that money to eat. He invested it. You remember Reverend talking about law of sowing and reaping? We can't eat our bread and have it, but we can sow our bread, and after many days we will find it. If you throw bread in the water, when you find it after many days, it will be swollen. It will be swollen. I'm just using it to paint a picture. It should have increased in size. So, we will pray about this, because everybody that is currently here, we are trusting God that we move to this place. Amen? For every of us that are doing something physical. And now, this is not just for the self-employed or businessmen. As a career person, maybe you are doing certain things here. What are the checklists you need to build so that you're not rethinking work from scratch all over? What are things that you do the calculation on your paper every day, but you can create an Excel spreadsheet for it? So that once you now enter 2 values, you look at the bottom line, you see the answer. Are we together? What are those things? Device. How better can you collaborate in your workplace so that you would have synergy with others and you can create more results? It's this stage. Are we together? So this is, you can interpret it based on your current situation, whether you are working somewhere or you are doing your own business. Now let's go to knowledge. Ask yourself, in what I do, what do I know that if I document, write a topic, maybe that you can create content around, is in terms of knowledge, maybe create a textbook, create a blog in what you are doing now, and you know that it will attract people to you. You know, there are so many ways that knowledge can attract people to you. You can start blogging about certain things today, and when some people need brand ambassador, you would have become so popular, have had so much followership, they are coming for you. Are we together? Actually, you know, we've explained on, I don't know if I mentioned it on Sunday, that true wealth actually starts from leveraging knowledge. Because this is where you start to really help others. Level 1 and level 2, majorly you are helping yourself. And maybe at most, you are helping the people that you have employed. And you are not really helping them because they are co-creating value with you. You are only giving them their share, as agreed. Personally, I don't think I'm helping my employees. I believe they deserve their wage. The laborer is worthy of his wage. We are creating value together and they are taking their share. That mindset helps me to respect them. Do we understand? It helps me to do what? Respect them. If they are not there and I have to be running around to do that thing myself, just imagine we have a pure water factory. If my guys are not there and I have to go and sell the water myself, I won't be this fresh this evening. I've sold it before anyway. There was a time at the beginning, me and Pelu, we go and produce. We didn't have an operator. We produce. Just come and carry back. You know, that was about the time Uncle Gabriel brought this software, what was that thing that we're working, all of us were working in this church? Sweat coin. It's in the factory that we will hand all our coins for the day. We just, before you move water from production room to storage, you will finish the sweat coin, the 10,000 step, or is it how many thousand steps? You'll finish it. You understand? And when you do that, you won't be fresh. When you are in this place and you are not thinking of how to get out, it's actually one of the mechanism of poverty traps. When you are here, you will not be thinking of, or you won't have time to leverage knowledge and to leverage ideas. Are we together? So Kenny now, she sells clothes. Most of her time is browsing, looking for clothes, calling customer. Yeah, it's still most of her time. Then when she gets it, posting all the clothes. What can you do to multiply your visibility? That's what brings you here. Now, is that something you know about fabric that you can start to write about and people will want to know? Maybe fabric care or something. You understand? That's what brings you here. The kind of these 4 levels also in Genesis 1, they were pictured as 4 rivers with which God was blessing Eden. One river, they say it comes in trickles. It's constant, it's regular all season, but it comes in trickles. You understand? Then there is another river, it's bigger. And sometimes it's not all seasons. But there is this river, it comes like a gush. And there is one that is always bursting forth like a waterfall. Do we understand? So you are supposed to have, so when they are talking of 4 streams of income, you will have one that you are so involved. You have one you are coordinating. You will have one that you created something. This knowledge was a knowledge you used. And you can consult and teach. This was knowledge you created. Idea. It's the knowledge you created, and that's why they put users of knowledge in 4 categories also. Level 1 knowledge user, level 2, level 3. Level 3 knowledge user are people who have become so good at something that they can teach it. Level 4 knowledge users are people who put together old knowledge to bring new diversity, new skill, or they even just bring about something that's not obvious at all. You understand? Here. That's why usually they disrupt the market. The way Amazon changed shopping. You know, there's a time you need to have one shop. You understand? Then ShopRite came. They had a very big stall, and all suppliers can. If you notice, when you enter ShopRite, you know that it's not ShopRite that has everything in that place. You see some people standing by their own goods, doing their marketing in that same ShopRite. They only rented space, but they are using the same shop. So they give you a big shopping experience. You are moving amongst variety. So they just unified. Then Jumia took it to this level. They have knowledge. They know where all the goodies are. So they created a website for it. You go there, you find it. Do we understand? You go there, you find it. You can order it. They know where it is. They will go and get it and bring it to you. You don't even know you need to know the shop where they brought your goods from. They are leveraging on what? Knowledge. They are brokers. Then you now have Amazon taking it to the next level, that once you do your registration very well, you can enter certain shop. There is no attendance.